This video is brought to you by GiveWell. Late on Tuesday night, South Korea's embattled President Yoon delivered a shocking address and declared martial law in the country, vowing to eradicate so-called anti-state forces, a move not seen in South Korea since the end of military rule 4 decades ago. But in a stunning reversal, just 6 hours after plunging South Korea into crisis, Yoon backtracked and lifted martial law. This was a truly shocking turn of events that basically no one was expecting. So in this video, we're going to explain what happened, why Yoon declared martial law, how it fell apart so quickly, and what it means for him and South Korea going forward. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. Let's jump straight in and look at President Yoon's bombshell announcement. Yoon said he was declaring martial law to, quote, protect the Free Republic of Korea from the threat of North Korean communist forces, to eradicate the shameless pro-North Korean anti-state forces that are plundering the freedom and happiness of our people, and to protect the free constitutional order. Adding that, with martial law, he would, quote, rebuild and protect the Free Republic of Korea and aim to normalize the country as soon as possible. So what are these scary anti-state pro-North Korean forces that Yoon was referring to? Well, he was talking about South Korea's opposition-controlled National Assembly, which he said had become a den of criminals. We'll come back to this later, but the TLDR for now is that Yoon's ruling Conservative Party has been butting heads with South Korea's liberal opposition Democratic Party, which has a parliamentary majority, for some time now. In particular, they've been locked in a dispute over next year's budget, and the opposition have also been attempting to impeach several government officials, including some top prosecutors. According to Yoon, since the start of his administration, the National Assembly has launched some 22 impeachment motions against government officials, which he described as unprecedented. Yoon also said that the opposition's, quote, legislative dictatorship had paralysed the country and amounted to an attempted overthrow of the liberal democratic system. So what exactly is martial law? It's effectively temporary rule by military authorities during times of emergency, and the country's Army Chief of Staff, Park An-soo, was quickly confirmed as the head of the martial law command. The command then quickly issued a decree that banned all political activities, including those of the National Assembly, political parties, as well as any protests, subjected all media and publications to the control of the martial law command, prohibited strikes and work stoppages, and said that violators of the decree may be arrested, detained and searched without warrant, and punished in accordance with the Martial Law Act. Now, constitutionally speaking, the president has the power to declare martial law during wartime, warlike situations, or other comparable national emergency states that require the use of military force to maintain peace and order. You can decide for yourself if you think that threshold was met, but condemnation of the move came in swiftly, unsurprisingly from the opposition, who declared it an unconstitutional move, but also from the chief of President Yoon's own People Power Party, who vowed to block it, as well as the mayor of Seoul, also from Yoon's party. Chaos quickly erupted outside the South Korean legislature, where protesters soon gathered, as did police and soldiers who tried to hold them back. Dramatic live footage also appeared to show troops, seemingly tasked with enforcing martial law rules, trying to enter the National Assembly, where Parliament aides attempted to push them back by spraying fire extinguishers and building a makeshift barricade. Nevertheless, within roughly 2.5 hours of martial law being declared, more than half of the National Assembly's 300 lawmakers managed to gather in the chamber, with some having resorted to climbing over the walls to bypass military barricades, and ultimately voted 190-0 to block the declaration of martial law, including 18 from Yoon's own party, a move that under the constitution, President Yoon legally had to comply with. There followed a long period of silence from Yoon. Lawmakers stayed put in the National Assembly, and protests continued through the night. Then, at roughly 4:30 a.m, Yoon announced in a live broadcast that in line with the National Assembly's vote, he had withdrawn the troops deployed for martial law duties, and following this, the government had lifted martial law, some 6 hours after he first declared it. So, this all raises an obvious question. What the hell was Yoon thinking? Well, it's important to know some wider context. Yoon, a conservative who was elected in 2022, is deeply unpopular, and his administration has been hamstrung by the opposition, who have controlled the National Assembly for his entire term in office. The opposition resoundingly won this year's legislative election, effectively leaving Yoon a lame duck with no easy route through the remainder of his term. Both Yoon and his wife have come under significant scrutiny and have been accused of corruption in several cases, which have added to the pressure and his unpopularity. As we mentioned earlier, the opposition have moved to impeach various officials, including prosecutors, for failing to investigate the alleged corruption, and the opposition has also been seeking to slash billions from Yoon's proposed budget, seen as an attempt to rein in the presidency by targeting cuts on the presidential office, national prosecutors, and the police. So you could see Yoon's move as a seriously high-stakes gamble that he hoped would allow him to neuter the opposition and secure his own position. But as attempted self-coups go, this was about as poorly planned as they get. He may have had some support within his cabinet and parts of the military, but he had virtually no political support, and reports suggest that all but a few of his inner circle were kept in the dark. The attempt to prevent lawmakers from gathering in the National Assembly evidently failed, as both regular citizens and lawmakers were quick to mobilise even at the late hour of the night. It's genuinely hard to imagine how Yoon thought this would go, even in his best-case scenario. Even a successful outcome for him would surely have required military repression of lawmakers and protests that were guaranteed to erupt. South Korea's democracy has been particularly hard-won, and its rocky path through the 1950s to the 80s involved coups, assassinations, dictatorships, uprisings, and massacres. The declaration of martial law will have had particular emotional weight because those troubled times are within the living memory of plenty of Koreans, and the last time martial law was declared, back in 1980, it resulted in the massacre of hundreds of pro-democracy demonstrators by soldiers in Gwangju. Ultimately, Yoon was already a weak and embattled president, but in the space of one night, he seemingly destroyed what little authority he had left. Demands for Yoon's resignation showed no sign of slowing down as the sun rose on Wednesday morning, and the opposition have already tabled an impeachment motion. As a country, South Korea has a robust history of impeaching and prosecuting its leaders, so it's not hard to imagine that Yoon will become the latest to suffer such a fate. Now, when you make a big purchase, say a car or a new mattress, how do you make sure that you're making the right choice? You could rely on all of the marketing copy in the product's ads, but many people find an independent resource that's rigorous and trustworthy. Today's sponsor, GiveWell, provides that independent resource for a different kind of purchase, a donation. For 17 years, GiveWell has been researching charitable organisations and only directs funding to a few of the highest impact opportunities that they've found. That's things like bed nets to prevent malaria. It costs about $5 to provide one net. Nets can reduce the number of malaria infections. Enough nets and a large enough drop in infections can save a life in expectation. Together, over 125,000 donors have used GiveWell to donate more than $2 billion. Rigorous evidence suggests that these donations will save over 200,000 lives and improve the lives of millions more. GiveWell wants as many donors as possible to make informed decisions about high-impact giving. You can find all of their research and recommendations on their site for free. You can make tax-deductible donations to their recommended funds or charities, and GiveWell doesn't take a cut. I particularly like GiveWell as it ensures that your money is doing a lot to help those the most in need. Here at TLDR News, we're big believers in doing research to find out what's really going on, and that's exactly the approach that GiveWell takes to charities. If you've never donated to GiveWell's recommended charities before, you can have your donation matched up to $100 before the end of the year, or as long as matching funds last. To claim your match, go to givewell.org and pick YouTube and enter TLDR News at checkout. Make sure that they know that you heard about GiveWell from TLDR News to get your donation matched. Again, that's givewell.org to donate or find out more.